What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. What do you think? This is my new 2024 Tesla Model 3 Highland, or just Model 3 refresh, whatever you want to call it. It's the updated Model 3. This is the stealth gray color, and it is the rear wheel drive standard range. So it has around 272 miles of range, mid 200s in horsepower, and it has a single motor in the back. It's also sitting on the 18-inch Photon wheels with the aero caps and has the black interior. Pretty much as low spec as you can go. $39,000 price tag, but this thing is incredible. We're gonna take a look all around the outside of the vehicle, then we're gonna hop inside, go for a test drive, and talk about everything that this vehicle has to offer. So starting here up front, you have the redesigned headlights. So they're a lot less kind of bulbous and more kind of elegant and sleek and narrow. Really low profile LED headlight set, looks really nice. Of course, you have the big front trunk under here, and then they removed the fog lights here for 2024. So you no longer have that. You have a simplified front end. Not a whole lot going on. You do have some air intake there down at the bottom, but other than that, very simplified. Again, like I mentioned, you have the 18-inch Photon wheels with the aero covers here. You can get 19-inch wheels as well, but they hurt your range a little bit, and I didn't care that much. I think the Photon wheels look good. Of course, you have the hardware 4 cameras here, one on each side, 2 up here. Used to have 3, now you just have 2, so one's a dummy camera. Power folding side mirrors here that are auto dimming. No turn signal built in, but you do have a turn signal there on the hardware 4 cameras. Recessed door handles here, so you just push in right here, and then it pops open like that. You have cameras here on the B-pillar, gigantic glass roof, which is absolutely beautiful. Nice slope to it as well. These tail lights here are also a redesign, so it used to be half and half split on the tailgate and then on the body. So when you open the tailgate, it would take half the light with you. Now it takes the entire light with you. Also, you have an updated Tesla word mark here, so no longer do you have the little Tesla badge. You have the full word printed out, which I think looks really nice. Then they fixed the back end here, made it look a little bit more sporty and aggressive. Of course, if you get the performance or the ludicrous, whatever they're going to call it, it's going to be even more aggressive, but you've got a nice spoiler up top, nice diffuser down at the bottom. Looks very aggressive. Of course, your charge port is going to be in here. Just push that, it open right up. Then you have a power lift gate. There's a button here you can use to close it, but look at how much trunk space you have in this. The only problem is that it's a saloon style trunk, so you don't have that hatch design that's a lot easier to load tall objects in. But I mean, you have so much cargo space down there. It's absolutely unbelievable. And you have more under the floor as well. But here in the back seat, of course, you have this new screen in the back for the Model 3s, as well as 2 USB-C ports down there. But this is going to give you the ability to watch movies, play games, Netflix, YouTube, adjust your air conditioning or heating back here, adjust the seating positions if need be, turn on the back heated seats, all kinds of great functionality back here on that display. Then you've got your little pockets back here. And the door panels are really nice as well. They have this nice kind of textile fabric on them. Speaker grills, everything's soft touch, and I'll talk more about that when we're driving, but just absolutely beautiful door design with that LED lighting that runs across the top as well, and the frameless window design looks great too. So let's take this thing for a little spin, but before we do that, I wanted to show you one of my favorite features just right off the bat. I'm holding this mic out for a reason, so I can do this, but take the seat belt, click it into place here, tap my foot on the brake. Everything's going to move for me. Auto adjusting steering wheel, mirrors, and seating position. And then I just drive. Don't have to push anything. Don't have to change gears. You don't even have to swipe if you don't want to. It just works. So here it is. This is my all new 2024 Tesla Model 3 Highland. Tesla just calls it the refresh Model 3. So that's what we'll go with. And I got it about a week ago. I put about 438 miles on this bad boy, and I'm excited to talk to you guys about it and bring you guys along for my entire journey. Now, let's talk initially here about why I went with the Tesla over some of the other options that I was considering. You all know, if you followed the podcast or any of my previous videos, I was considering an Ioniq 5 or Ioniq 6, one of the two, a Tesla 3 or Y, as well as an Equinox EV. The Equinox EV got eliminated solely due to timing. I'm sure it'll be a great car. I'm excited to check it out on this channel very soon, so hit subscribe so you don't miss that. but it just didn't work out timing-wise or price-wise for what I wanted to have. So that eliminated that, and then I've made reviews on the Ioniq 6 and I've driven the Ioniq 5, and I love both of those cars a whole heck of a lot. There's always just been something about Teslas that's attracted me to them. And I think there's a couple reasons, and I'll talk about that later on in the video. But back in January, when they announced the refreshed Model 3 was coming to North America, I placed an order within hours of them unveiling that. And so I got mine pretty early. In fact, when I went to Cincinnati to pick mine up, the lady at the Tesla store told me I was the first refreshed Model 3 that they delivered in Kentucky. So that's pretty cool. That's pretty similar to my experience with my Bolt. I was one of the first owners to have that, not like a press vehicle, not a demo drive, like an actual owner. So I'm one of the first Model 3 refreshed owners in the state of Kentucky, and I think that's really awesome. So hopefully you guys will come along with me for my journey of owning this vehicle for the long haul here. I did end up purchasing this vehicle instead of leasing. The only reason I ended up doing that is because I straight up can't lease in Kentucky. Tesla doesn't have a sales license in Kentucky, some kind of weird law, I don't really know, but I found out after the fact of placing my order that I could not in fact lease, so I had to cancel an order and reorder. So I own this car. As far as cost between this and my Bolt, I actually borrowed less money for this than I did with my Bolt. So realistically, this cost me less money, which is actually crazy because as much as I love my Bolt, the Tesla is on a different level than the Bolt. And I'm gonna explain what I mean by that. I've made a million videos on my Chevy Bolt. I love it, I always will, but there were things about it that I just didn't care for. The Tesla fixes all of those problems and some that didn't even bother me, like the lackluster build quality that you get on the Bolt. The Tesla just doesn't have that problem. And I know what you're gonna say. Oh, Tesla has built up the panel gaps. I get it, I hear you. I understand that that's the case on a lot of vehicles, and I'm not saying it's perfect on my vehicle, but it's significantly better here in 2024, and I think it's only gonna get better and better. But again, it's not perfect. I had to make a service appointment 2 hours into ownership. I'm not joking. And are there little things here and there that I've noticed already about my vehicle? Yeah, there are. There's a couple things, like I mentioned, I had to make a service appointment. I'll tell you why in just a bit. But even like the LED lighting strip over here, it doesn't perfectly line up going from the door panel to the front of the car there. It's just off by just a tiny bit. Over on the passenger side, it lines up almost perfectly. It's just a hair off on the driver's side. Not enough to bother me, surprisingly, but so far, nothing creaks, nothing squeaks, nothing rattles. It's been great so far. But I had my Bolt for a year and had to fix a bunch of stuff, so maybe that'll happen here. We'll see. Like I said, I had to go pick up this car in Cincinnati because they don't deliver to Kentucky. So 2 hours up, 2 hours back. I brought all my cameras to film it, and I just couldn't bring myself to do it. And I think the reason is that I just wanted a little bit of time to enjoy the car for myself. You guys probably don't know this because I don't know if I've ever mentioned it, but I've wanted a Tesla for probably the better part of 8 to 10 years. It's been a car that I've always had in the back of my head. I've always loved. I've always been super jealous of people that had Teslas. And I never thought that I'd have an electric vehicle. And then when I got my Bolt and I got into the space and started to make YouTube videos about it and kind of build some momentum there, I was like, man, I just don't know if I'm ever going to get a Tesla because I feel like it's too cliche for an EV YouTuber or tech YouTuber to have a Tesla. So I've got to fit into this other box where I don't have a Tesla so that I stand out and I'm different enough. If you guys just hate Teslas and you don't like Tesla content, I completely understand. Like I said, I'll be making plenty of other content. You guys can just skip over the Tesla videos. But if you're new to the channel and you do love Teslas, definitely hit subscribe because we're gonna be making a bunch of videos with this car. It's an awesome car. There's plenty to talk about and I'm excited to bring you guys along for the ride. So I've had my 2022 Chevy Bolt EUV for 3 years. I've had this Tesla for 1 week. What have I noticed? What are the big differences in just this 1 week of daily driving the Tesla versus the Bolt? Well, first and foremost, the ride height. That's something that I noticed right off the bat. I haven't driven a sedan since 2013, 2014. So it's been over a decade since I've driven a sedan, and it's just a different feeling. Another thing I've definitely noticed as far as kind of the way it drives is this vehicle grips the road so well. The Bolt was a front wheel drive. This is a rear wheel drive, but you can definitely tell the difference between how the Model 3 grips the road and how the suspension works versus the Bolt. The Bolt has a little bit of a stiffer suspension. It rides a little bit higher and it's significantly less aerodynamic. So it kind of blows around in the wind more, feels a little swimmy when you're steering. This Tesla just doesn't feel like that. It grips the road, whether it's wet outside, whether it's a little slick, doesn't matter. My Bolt would slide, this doesn't. This just rips and turns, really grips really well. And the suspension is really nice. It has a nice kind of way of adapting between kind of a rougher road where it will, soften those bumps a little bit. And then once it gets into a smooth area, it really, mellows out and helps you get connected to the road. So you feel like you have more control. Now, I would love to put the Bolt and the Model 3 side by side, the rear wheel drive and the regular Bolt, and race them. I think that'd be really interesting because I think the Bolt might actually win off the line, but not once you get going a little bit. Because the Tesla, while it doesn't like pin me back as much, like I'm gonna punch it. The Bolt would really kind of punch, but then up at the higher speeds, it wouldn't be able to punch anymore. You'd kind of reach your max. This Model 3, it won't punch as hard off the line, but once you get going, you can just punch it again and it will just continue to kind of push you back. And again, this is the rear wheel drive, not the all wheel drive, like 5.80 to 60, mid 200s horsepower range. And I mean, it just never stops punching. And I love that because it makes passing super easy on the highway, just like I just did with that truck that wanted to get over. It makes, getting out in front in city traffic, no issue at all. Like it just continuously goes and goes and goes. And I really appreciate that, although it doesn't have the quickest, off the line speed. Now let's talk about the technology. Of course, Teslas are packed full of technology, but so was the Bolt. But I knew that when I upgraded my vehicle that I wanted to take a big step up in technology. And I just don't know right now if anyone is doing technology quite like Tesla is, outside of maybe Rivian. Hyundai is doing a really good job, and I think they're rapidly catching up. And you guys know, if you've watched my other videos, one thing that was super important to me when making this next purchase was to have better driver assistance features, and it doesn't get any better on the driver assistance features front than Tesla. Not only do you have traffic-aware cruise control, standard, you've got Autopilot standard, so I can just hit this little scroll wheel one time. I keep my hands on the wheel, but you can one-hand it or whatever. I can let off the accelerator, I can speed myself up, and it does a great job of keeping me away from the vehicles in front of me. It's going to keep me in the middle of my lane, and I just don't really have to do anything. It'll bring me to a complete stop, it'll speed me back up, whatever the case may be, and it has the ability to have the full self-driving beta. I don't have it yet, but I'm gonna get it and I'm gonna make a video for you guys, so subscribe so you don't miss that, my first drive on full self-driving. I'm nervous, but I'm excited to try it, but I don't have it quite yet. But I've been using Autopilot pretty regularly and it works really well. Well, I've heard a lot of people complain about how it like beeps at them and stuff. And I'm like, what are you guys doing that's making it beep at you? Because I've driven with it almost every day for some portion of the day, and I've never had it beep at me one time. I can look over at the screen, I can look out the mirrors, I can do whatever. As long as I'm not sitting looking at my phone the whole time, which you absolutely should not do in any case, it's not gonna beep at you. It just does its thing, and it's great. So what are some new things on this Tesla that have been an adjustment for me coming from my Bolt? Well, there's been a couple things that a lot of reviewers have talked about when talking about this updated Model 3. And one of the big things is the lack of stocks. And I can't overstate this enough. It is not that hard to get used to. It's just not. I was pretty much used to it by the time I got back from Cincinnati. No turn signal stock here, no shift stock here, no levers like I had on my Bolt. It is a auto shift system that works really, really well, and then the turn signals are on the steering wheel. Now, the stockless design is not hard to get used to. What is kind of hard to get used to is that these buttons are not like traditional buttons I've used on a steering wheel before. They're either completely physical buttons or they're touch capacitive buttons. This really isn't either of those. They're technically speaking a physical button, but they feel more like touch capacitive haptic buttons, but you have to push them in the exact right spot to get them to work. So if you push them like too low down on the plastic, it just doesn't work. You have to push almost directly on the arrow itself to get it to work. So you just have to figure out where exactly kind of the the muscle memory of where your finger needs to go to push those buttons effectively. But once you get it, I'm telling you guys, you won't be able to go back. You won't miss the stocks. It's no problem. Also, like I showed at the very beginning of this video, the auto shift works amazingly well. It's still in beta, which is crazy because it's only going to get better, but I've been using it since day one. I turned it on right away, and I've never had a situation where it hasn't worked. The only time it ever gets weird is if you're in a pass-through spot, so you can either go forward or backwards out of the spot, and it will just pick one or the other. But unless you just absolutely have a preference, why does it matter? You know, whatever it picks, just go with that. But as far as every other situation, whether I've been in a parking lot, a garage, anything, it's worked awesome. And apparently they're coming out with a software update that's going to be able to do things like 3-point turns, K turns, all that kind of stuff, which I'm super excited to check out. Another thing that I absolutely love is the speaker system. And again, this is the rear wheel drive model. This doesn't even have the best speaker system, but it has a 9-speaker audio system, no subwoofers. But if you go up to the all-wheel drive, you'll get a 17-speaker audio system with 2 subs. And I'm sure that sounds absolutely incredible knowing how this one sounds. My Bolt speaker system was terrible. Now, to be fair, I had the 6-speaker cheap system, but it was just awful. This system blows it out of the water and it's not even close. And again, this is the budget system of the group. Now, of course, you have next to no buttons or dials to control anything. Everything's done through the touchscreen. People either love that or hate that. I absolutely love it. It doesn't bother me in the slightest. The only thing that's a little bit annoying and doesn't work that well are the auto wipers. So I end up just clicking the wiper button on the steering wheel and then using the left little toggle button here to switch over to which wipers I want instead of using auto wipers because they rely on the camera systems and it doesn't work that well. But apparently that's going to get fixed in a software update as well, so we'll have to see. Another thing I love that makes it feel super premium is that there are magnets everywhere. So this visor here, it magnets on it, snaps into place like that, pull it off, and then the little mirror thing folds down with magnets as well. The center armrest here, magnets only to hold it into place. The glove box over there pops down with the button and then magnets right back into place. Very loud, but snaps back into place with magnets. It's awesome. There's just magnets everywhere. And these seating surfaces, I cannot overstate how much more comfortable they are than my Bolt seats. Not only are they a nice vegan leather material, but they're power adjustable with lumbar support. They're heated and ventilated. They're more bolstered. They're just better in every way. So needless to say, there's a lot of things that I love about this car, but that does not mean it's perfect. Like I mentioned earlier, I had to make a service appointment 2 hours into ownership. I got back from Cincinnati. I went straight to my grandparents' house to show them the car. My grandpa was in here for a test drive. He tried to get out and he couldn't. So the little electronic button here, the little door release that opens your door for you, it does not work at all on the passenger side door. So I had to go on the app, submit a service request right off the bat. They said, no problem, we'll do a mobile service. It'll be in like 5 days. And I was like, that's awesome, no big deal. But then as I gave them more information, they moved me from a mobile service appointment to actually going to our local service center, which we recently had built here in Louisville, Kentucky. So, you know, no big deal, but they pushed me back a week, right? Then as I gave them more information and I told them about another issue I was having, which is underneath the screen here, there's a little fan, and that fan runs 24/7. I did some research. It seems to be maybe a cabin temperature sensor that's just spinning all the time, or maybe the fan for the actual computer inside of the car. One of those two things, but it spins all the time and it makes a very, very low speed humming sound. So I'll give you a clip on screen of what it sounds like. But it goes constantly. So I told him about that. And there's one other little thing that I think is fixed now, but it was that my car was making a weird humming sound outside the car as well, even when just sitting turned off completely. Then they pushed my appointment back even further. So I'm in the process of waiting for my parts to arrive and then to go to my new appointment, which is a little bit later, and figure out if they can fix all this stuff. So I'll definitely bring you guys along for that journey. But I really feel like I got the full Tesla experience all in one. I got to go to the dealership. I got to, you know, have the little sign with my name on it. I got to get in the car for the first time, have my phone automatically pair as my key, all the kind of cool techie Tesla stuff. Drive it home, have a great experience driving and all that kind of stuff. Then the second I get home, some little goofy thing is broken. And that's just the Tesla experience. It's what I expected. It's just crazy to actually experience it in real life. I'm not super mad about it. It's a little bit annoying. You have to use the emergency release, which you're not supposed to use because it can damage your trim. We'll get it fixed. I don't doubt it. And obviously it's all under warranty because I've had the car for a week. So I talked a little bit at the beginning about why I chose a Tesla, and it really came down to those things. It came down to seating comfort, which was a big one for me. Definitely massive upgrade there. The look, I think that the new Model 3 is a really attractive vehicle. I really like the low profile headlights. I like the taillight redesign. I like the front fascia redesign. I like the interior lighting. All of it's great. I have no complaints about the look of it at all. I think it's awesome. I really liked the old Model 3 too, but the new Model 3 took it up a notch. It's sexier, and I'm happy that I went with the 2024. Price. Some of the vehicles I was looking at were significantly more expensive than this vehicle. Now, they would have had tax incentives that I would have been able to qualify for. I could have leased where I can't lease this car. So I would have been able to get it for a similar price. But for all of the features that you get with the Tesla, for the comfort, for the tech, for the convenience, all that kind of stuff, at this $39,000 price point, I didn't think it was financially responsible to get anything else. And like I said, I've wanted a Tesla for basically my entire life as an adult driver. And one of the big reasons is the interior simplicity. There's just something soothing to my brain about the interior of a Tesla cabin. Just having the nice, big, beautiful, fluid, efficient screen with all of the controls you need, and then the nice, clean steering wheel with some buttons on it. It's just peaceful to me. This cabin just is relaxing to be in. The improvements that they made really made it feel more refined. Slimming down the bezels on the screen, adding the ambient lighting, adding the textured fabric, getting rid of that awful wood grain. Wood grain is one of my least favorite things on the planet. I think it looks so cheap, and I was so glad they got rid of it. But having that ambient lighting, having the redesigned headlights, the redesigned tail lights, the updated sound on the tailgate, the beeping sound, having the hardware 4 camera system, having some of the upgraded center console things, having the 65-watt charging port for laptops, having the ventilated seats, that's a huge one, having the screen in the back. All of these improvements just blow anything else at this price point out of the water. You just can't beat it. Another thing is I absolutely love not having to carry keys. That was one of the things that I tried really hard to get on my old car, is I wanted to get it to the point where I could like put my keys in my backpack, and just, I hate carrying car keys in my pocket. So not having to have a physical key at all, but having the option of solely using my phone as a key, which is brilliant. And then if I need a backup, I can use the little key card. It's just the best. I love not having to carry keys. I love having my phone. I love having the app that lets you heat and cool the car and check on all of the cameras via Sentry mode, all that kind of stuff. It's all killer software, killer hardware. You just can't beat it anywhere else. And I think other manufacturers will start to do it. I think BMW is starting to do it a little bit. But right now, unbeatable. And then finally, in that same vein, it's the software. I mentioned how fluid and responsive Tesla's system is. You've got all the animations here on the side. My dad drove the car and he said, I love this animation thing just as much as anything else in the car. It's the coolest thing. This visualization of everything around you, whether that's stop signs, speed signs, traffic lights, semis, regular cars, lines on the road, whatever the case may be. It's just so fluid, so easy to use. Everything's right there. You don't have to click things multiple times to get them to work. They don't stutter, they don't lag, they just work. You just can't say that about most infotainment systems in most other legacy manufacturers. And with Tesla software, they're constantly adding new features. And that's, again, something you just don't get with other manufacturers. Typically speaking, if you were to get, let's say, an SE trim, right? So if the trims go S, SE, SEL, you're going to get the SE trim. That's the mid trim. It's not going to come with the hardware needed for some of the features that the SEL has. Whereas a Tesla, it pretty much comes standard with all the features except like multiple motors, right? That's the only thing that really changes, or like maybe white seats, bigger wheels, that kind of stuff. Stuff that doesn't really impact the software experience at all. The hardware is all there. You just have to unlock the different software features depending on what you want. And they're constantly adding new features. And that is something that just doesn't happen anywhere else. It just doesn't. You can't buy a 2024 Hyundai Ioniq 6 and have them add some significant altering software feature that requires, you know, this extensive hardware and stuff. It just doesn't happen. At least there's no precedent for it yet. Tesla's one of the only manufacturers that actually does stuff like that. Now, this has pros and cons because not only do they add new stuff, but they also take away stuff that they previously said you were going to have and you bought the car thinking it was going to have. Summon. But nonetheless, I think the good outweighs the bad in this case, and we'll have to see as, you know, the laws continue to seemingly get stricter and stricter on self-driving features. We'll see how that goes. So yeah, those are my first impressions of my 2024 Tesla Model 3 Highland after 1 week of ownership. Again, drop a like if you guys enjoyed it. Drop a comment down below if you have any questions about the Model 3 or really any EV questions at all. I'm going to be making a ton of videos with this vehicle, guys, and all the other EVs that you guys know and love. Don't worry about that. And definitely hit subscribe so you don't miss my journey with this Tesla Model 3 as well as all those other EVs. And I'll see you in the next one.